Hello, my name is Abby Mickey and you're listening to the Wheel Talk podcast. I am joined by my amazing friends, Gracie Alvin.
Hello, hello.
Fresh off of commentating the first two stages of the Giro at ungodly hours.
Yeah, a few late nights. I'm commentating until the first rest day, so I'm feeling okay so far, but we've got a big week to go.
And Loren Rowney.
G'day. I think the commentary is a good thing, Gracie. It's just kind of prepping you for those night owl hours that are coming up potentially.
I know, I did think that. So I think I'm nearly at 35 weeks pregnant now, and I still feel okay, but I'm so hot in that commentary box. My core temperature is so much higher. I'm just like sweating bullets. I'm taking shorts into the studio and it's like cold here now in Australia. But yeah, not struggling too much yet, but definitely getting a bit of a sense of being up late at night.
We have a great race to talk about today, La Vuelta Femenina. We did a couple mid-week episodes after stages 1 and 2 and 4 and 6, but we're going to start off with stages 7 and 8, and then we're going to do a little overall roundup of some of the talking points of the race. So a lot to cover today, but hopefully we can do the race justice. Let's start with stage 7. Crosswinds that I didn't expect, but love to see, made the race a little bit more exciting. A lot of attacks in the end, and it was Marianne Vos who won her second stage of the race. The first person to repeat a win at this race, which I think highlights just how good this race was overall, but we will definitely get to that in a little bit. What do you guys think? What do you think about stage 7?
I forgot that you done like the recap, so it was like waiting for like the full breakdown of the whole tour, like stage by stage, because we're Monday morning now, and it's kind of like you forget about all the things that happened
I can
earlier
do that.
Last week.
Ready?
You can do that. Oh, go for it. I mean, I couldn't do that.
Stage 1, we had an opening TTT. Lidl-Trek took the win. Even though two of their riders crashed with 300 meters to go, they were 2 milliseconds ahead of Visma Lease Bike, with SC Work coming in third, 1 second down, and Canyon-SRAM took fourth. Then on stage 2, we thought we were going into a pretty standard bunch sprint, only for there to be crashes, a ton of crashes, going into the final 3 kilometers due to slightly wet roads. Alison Jackson took a amazing victory ahead of Blanca Vos, who moved into the red leaders jersey. On stage 3, we had a reduced bunch sprint again. This one was the bunchiest sprint of the race, I would say. The most bunch sprint. We did have a couple riders go down in the final 3 kilometers, but overall it was pretty much a bunch sprint, won by Marianne Vos ahead of Charlotte O'Cool, with Olivia Barrel taking third. And then on stage 4, we had crosswinds, and this was the day that really started to shake up the general classification. Kristen Faulkner won the stage with an amazing late race solo move that could not be matched by Elisa Longoborghini, who was on her wheel at the time. She rode in solo with Georgia Baker coming in second, Marianne Vos third, and Blanca Vos came in fourth, so she held on to the red jersey. But a ton of riders lost time, most notably for the stage I'm about to talk about. Evita Music lost 2 minutes after missing those crosswinds, but Leona Lippert also lost a bunch of time. I'm sure we will talk about her and Movistar in the general wrap-up. Then we had the first mountaintop stage of the day. Two Category 2 climbs over the final 1/3 of the race. The stage was won by Demi Vollering solo, 28 seconds ahead of Yara Castellan and Elisa Longoborghini. And it was the first real test of the general classification. Demi Vollering took the red jersey. For stage 6, we had another mountaintop finish. This one was like a long flat lead in to one big climb, and very weird tactics went on this stage. And what ended up happening was the climb was a headwind, so Evita Music was able to hold on to Demi Vollering and sprint around her to take the win. Such a great win. I'm a huge fan of Evita Music, and so I was really happy to see it. Stage 7 was another, quote, flat day, but not really, and ended with a 500 meter, 11% mini Mur de Huy, as my husband called it. And it was won by a group that came into the line together after crosswind split the peloton a little bit. Not as big a time gaps today as we saw on stage 4, but still some time gaps in there, including for Liana Lippert, again, was caught behind the back of a bunch of crosswinds. So really not a good race for Movistar. Again, we'll talk about it in a second. Won by Marianne Vos, with Kristen Faulkner taking second after leading up the entire climb. Boy, did she have one heck of a race. And then the final stage was 2 category 1 climbs in a 90-kilometer long race. It was a short one. And 2 pretty hard climbs. The first one, arguably the harder of the 2, but the second one was when Demi Vollering went solo for the final 6 kilometers to take a commanding win of the stage and the general classification. Evita Music was able to come in second on that stage, 29 seconds behind, with Rihanna Marcus coming in third, 33 seconds behind, which bumped her up in the general classification to second.
That was a great rundown. Thank you for refreshing my memory.
Well done.
I will say that was about 70% memory.
So that's impressive. That's impressive. I couldn't do that even at my best. I'm not functioning
Imagine if I could put that kind of memorization towards like learning
languages. Yes. You'd be fluent in 5 different languages within a year, Abby.
So nice.
Good job. Good job.
So nice.
I think that's also good for the listeners.
You're fluent in cycling, and that is a global language.
There you go.
I'm blushing.
It brings people together.
It's a bit of a niche language to be fluent in, but that's okay.
Well, I mean,
Especially
here in
women's
Europe,
cycling.
definitely. I mean, in America and Australia, a little less. You know, people would think you're speaking gibberish, but that's okay. We love it. We're here for it.
I guess there's not like a ton, because we didn't do individual pods for 7 and 8. So I wanted to dive into those like a little bit more in depth. Not a ton, just like a couple minutes spent on those 2 episodes or 2 stages. And I think for stage 7, one of the key things for me was the crosswinds, really driven by Elisa Longo Borghini when the crosswinds hit. She was the one who really went to the front and tried to split it. And that it was only about 30 seconds gap to the group behind, but that front group was just fascinating in the way that they were racing. The attacks were relentless coming into the finish, and there was definitely moments where I thought that it was not going to come down to that group riding to the line, but in the end it did, and the effort by Kristen Faulkner going up that climb was incredible. I think like she basically did a lead out for Vos. With Vos on your wheel on a finish like that, you're not going to be able to take it from her, but she did hold off Elisa Longo Borghini. So just such an incredible effort from her, and backing up her win of stage 4 with this effort going into nationals, which is a huge decider for the second Olympic spot for the US. I think she's going to be feeling pretty good right now, and EF as well with this. I mean, another podium for them is a fantastic result. Stage 8, unless you guys have anything to add.
Not really, just there was a few people that missed those splits in the crosswinds that, you know, like we don't really see crosswinds that much anymore for one reason or another. So I love it when we do see them, but it's still an important skill to have as a cyclist. And I just feel like there was a few people that were caught out or caught sleeping or something. And you just can't afford that especially if you're a GC rider.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. And particularly when we look at Evita Music, I think if she, had made those splits, because it was basically the same people every time, right? I mean, even Niamh Fisher-Black, tiny little rider like herself, was making the splits. I think, did she make the split though? Yeah, she made them both times.
The second crosswind stage 7, Evita also managed to make the crosswind split, but stage 4 was definitely like the biggest miss for FDJ-Suez, and the decider when it came to Evita's general classification result. but stage 7, she was more on top of it. She was there.
But the in stage 7, it was Lippert, wasn't it, that missed it, and Movistar in
Lippert
general.
missed it. Movistar missed it.
I still feel like with Lippert, is still coming into form. Like she had a good race, not what we've seen before, but it's still coming. Maybe as well her confidence in the bunch, because I would have said in the past, Lippert would be a rider that would be making those splits, not someone who struggles with these situations. She's a very well-rounded rider. Someone who really lost out this week, I think, as well, was Mavi Garcia. When she missed that split, I think that really probably impacted as well just her mindset, because it was very much at that point, okay, it's done, the GC. Because Jayco AlUla, they had a decent TTT, but they weren't right up there in the mix. So she already lost some seconds on day one, and then to lose that huge chunk of time as a GC contender would have been very devastating. You could definitely see it in just her body language on the bike, I thought. But actually, in terms of the team results, I thought Jayco AlUla itself had a good race. The young Norwegian rider, again, was up there in the mix, Ingvild Gasken. And I thought Georgia Baker was, I've got a whole list of riders I think that we should definitely talk about and mention in this tour. But Georgia Baker had a fantastic tour too. I mean, she was making those splits. She was right up there. To get second on that stage it was Faulkner, I think, won. And beat Voss was a very strong performance by her, particularly considering there was that really hard climb before the finish. So I just had that for that team down, that it was good to see them up there. And they seemed pretty happy at the end of the stage where it raced with how they raced in general. Just a shame in terms of GC for Garcia. But then I guess Ingvild Gasken was still kind of up there as a GC contender too.
We actually have an audio diary from the last stage with George Baker. So let's hear that now.
Hello, it's Georgia from Jayco AlUla. We just finished stage 8 and the final stage of the Vuelta. We're all very tired, but yeah, really happy with the week that we've had on the team. For a quick rundown of our stage today, it was a really hard stage. It was a very short one and an early start. So the last week, we've been starting our stages around 1 o'clock to 2 p.m. And today we started at 10:30, and being the final stage, an early alarm was a bit of a rude awakening for everyone. So we were on the road racing before 11. And the stage had in store for us 2 really big climbs, which we climbed up to 1,800 altitude meters. And for us, we were hoping to get Ingvild and Mavi up the road into an early break. Was an ideal scenario for us. And Ingvild's been climbing really well. And also Mavi, our Spanish champion, these climbs suit her really well as well. So we were hoping to set them up and go for a really good stage result. And so we started the stage and there was lots of attacks. It was really aggressive, and that was one of my roles, was to be present in those attacks or to help initiate moves that would set up Ingvild and Mavi to potentially then get up the road. We ended up with Silke, our Dutch teammate. She ended up in a really, really good breakaway, which stayed away for most of the stage. And so she climbed really well. We had a really good team ride in the end. And Ingvild climbed, she said she was so tired and just left it all out there. And it was one of those days where the legs did the talking and you just had to, just dig deep. For me, my role was done pretty early. I tried to climb the first climb and find a really good group and climb it solid. I just wanted to finish the Vuelta off and the solid week off with, on a positive note. We're really happy with the week that we've had with the team. I think it's one of my highlights has been just how we've been working together. And it's just slowly improved from stage. And it's really positive. We've still got a lot of racing left in the year. So I think that this is a really good momentum for us as a team. And we had some good results. I finished second in a stage. And yeah, so it's really positive, and everyone's got good energy. But yeah, we're definitely very tired now. Everyone can't wait for some pizza tonight, and just relax and go home and unwind. Yeah, it's been a busy 8 days on the tour, and the start of the team times trials feels so long ago. But yeah, everyone's still in really good mood, and yeah, that's pretty much a little bit of a rundown from my end and from the team. So I hope you enjoyed, a few little snippets of what it's like behind the scenes with the team.
Oh, that was good. Good segue.
Nice.
Stage 8 was the hardest stage of the race, I think, with the amount of elevation gain crammed into a relatively short stage at 89.5 kilometers long. 2 Category 1 climbs. The first one was quite long, and teams tried to get riders up the road. There was Voss was in there for Marcus. They had Elena Cecchini in there for Demi. There was Brodie Chapman was in there, and it was a combination of riders with teammates in the general classification and also riders hoping for a result on the stage, like Sarah Gigante, and Caroline Swinkles was up there. Swinkles was the last one standing as they finished that first categorized climb. So the plan to have riders in the valley between the climbs didn't quite work out, but Swinkles just highlighting what a great week she had. And then a group of favorites came over the top of that climb and went into the final ascent together. It was kind of a pacemaking on the front by Grace Brown, incredible riding by Grace Brown to make it over that first climb, and then to be pacing on that second climb for Evita. They just did so much. It's just so clear how well that team gels together in that moment. In a nutshell, you're like, okay, they are all in for Evita. She's not in the general classification conversation, but it's another stage that she could take. And yeah, they did just such an incredible ride for her. And then with 6 kilometers to go, Demi was like, meh, I don't think I'll wait. And she rode away and pretty effortlessly left everyone in the dust. I think some of the notable performances on the day was, again, Evita Music finishing second, but Rihanna Marcus taking third was a really incredible result for her, and in front of some really strong climbers like Juliette Lebeau was 6th, Ricarda Bauernfein 5th. We definitely need to talk about her. Paulina Marcus, we know she's a really, really good climber. She came in 4th, and for Marcus to finish in front of those climbers was very notable. She's been trying so hard to shift her type of rider from TT specialist domestique to being a GC rider for Visma Lease a Bike, and finishing third on this stage and finishing second overall is just a sign that things are coming together for her. So that was a really strong climb. Another rider who was again in the mix on stage 8, the final climb, was Kim Cadzow of EF Education-Cannondale, and we have an audio diary from Kim, so let's hear that really quick.
My first Grand Tour finished. I'm super, super happy with how it all played out. I came away with a top 10 in the general classification and a top 10 on stage 8 after a grueling day out and a mountaintop finish. I've never been so tired in my life. All the girls really, really put on a show this week. We've had an amazing time as a team. Kristen coming away with a second again yesterday in stage 7 after just eating sandwiches all day. Super impressive. She managed to somehow eat a sandwich while riding a crosswind all day, which is something that I think is quite impressive. We had another nice hotel. We stayed in a spa hotel actually last night with dysfunctional coffee machines this morning, which wasn't ideal for an early stage, but we got there and we all got an Americano in the end. And we all made Kristen sandwiches again for stage 8, so I made her a nice salty sandwich because she was craving bread for the last 2 days. And yeah, the team really protected me all day, and I've had a super, super time at the Vuelta. I think my new enemy might be the wind, but I'm learning to ride it a bit better. So yeah, happy days.
The rider of the day is definitely Loren, who took the stage into her own hands and kind of just made it clear that she is still the best climber that we have in the women's peloton at this moment. So that was stage 8. Also, I would like to point out that I don't know if you can tell that I'm sick, but I apologize for my my nasally, stuffy voice this episode, and also the last 2 episodes. I can't shake this cold.
I haven't
I don't
noticed,
think
to be
you
honest.
sound that bad.
I feel ridiculous talking. Anyway, stage 8. Any thoughts from you two before we talk about the whole race, the general race, the whole thing?
MVP of the tour, probably one of the front runners, is Grace Brown, and you've mentioned her already. So really nice to see her coming off the back of her Liège win in, keeping some really good form, but also being super useful to the FDJ squad. So great to see Evita Music stepping up as well. I think she's been capable of it, but just seemed to really pull it together for the week, but just with that team support made a big difference. It's just nice to see riders not being afraid to, have a crack. And I think we're seeing that the last couple of years, a few fresh faces just putting their hand up. And Evita Music is one of those riders that makes the racing more interesting to watch, but also not in a way that you're like, what the hell are they doing? You know what I mean?
I mean, she's really consistently gotten better and better. And this result is something that not only Evita, but also FDJ-Suez they're going to walk away from this race just feeling like $1 million. Like, they are now going into the Giro and the Tour, the other 2 big races of the year, but also the other smaller stage races we have coming up. We still have 2 small stage races with Vuelta Burgos and Zulia in Spain coming up pretty soon. So going into these tours coming up, they are going to have so much confidence. And I think that that's something that they have now after this race that pretty much no other team in the peloton, maybe other than Visma Lease Bike, is going to have, because we'll talk about SC Works and the cracks in the dynamic that we saw this week at the race. But Lidl-Trek also, Elisa Longoborghini pretty much saved their race by landing on the podium overall. But losing Gaia Riolini was a huge blow. And the rest of the team, while incredibly strong, and we saw Spratty on the attack on stage 7, seeing her up the road, I was like, is she going to take this? For a second, I was really excited. I got too excited, overly excited too soon, and she got caught. But Brodie was off the front in the break on stage 8, and I think that team is incredibly strong, but they definitely had a few big losses at this race with Ellen crashing, with Gaia crashing, and then not having a GC rider that could match Vollering, because again, Elisa, phenomenal, but when it comes to these kind of climbs, it's not her thing. And I think she absolutely pulled out everything she possibly could to land on the podium. And she was amazing for what she can do. But had Gaia been in the race, Elisa would have been the difference maker for Gaia on those climbs that would have allowed Gaia to really challenge Vollering. So I think that Lidl-Trek is coming out of this race with a podium finish in the GC when they were going in with the possible winner. And so they probably aren't feeling as good as FDJ, who was going in with a rider that they knew could finish really well, but that the rest of the world probably marked as a top 6 finisher on a stage, not a stage winner, queen stage runner-up, and one of the talks of the race. So FDJ's coming out of this race with so much confidence, and I think that only bodes well going into the rest of the season, because watching that team and knowing that team, they're a team that thrives on that positivity. The wins that they get only spur them on to greater results, and we saw that with Marta Cavalli in 2022. And so with with this result, with two of their biggest riders pretty much out of commission with Cavalli, and she started the race, but she's still, not the Cavalli of 2022 quite yet. And obviously Cele Uttrup Ludwig is still out after her crash earlier in the spring. So without those two riders, they've really stepped it up as a team, and it's been incredible to watch. And I think for them, this just highlights what they can do together as a unit.
Which I'm sure Demi is very excited about, seeing though she's moving across next year. I mean, to see that, rumor. That's a rumor. If you see the way that team is, like you said, racing and gelling together, but then I can't help but think for a young rider like Evita, who seems to be finding her feet and her confidence, how that will go for her next year when, clearly Demi wants to be this Grand Tour rider, which she is. I mean, the focus this spring has obviously been building just towards these tours and the Olympics, I would say. And she's done that perfectly because she was unmatchable. She just looked so strong and confident in the way that she rode. She didn't even attack. She just did an Annemiek. What Annemiek used to do was just keep cranking up the pace and upping the power till no one could kind of hang on.
Even stage 6, that she just rode on the front in a headwind and just was shelling that group of riders. Just one after another was falling off the back. And then to just ride away pretty much, and Evita was the only one who could hold her wheel into a headwind. She just looked, that was the only time she looked like she'd made an effort the whole race. Both of the stages she won, she was pretty much just the final stage was unreal. She just looked like she wasn't even there was one point where the camera was really close to her face and she just smiled and stuck out her tongue, and I was like, girl, you are something else. This is so impressive. And it really did look like Annemiek of old, but with a lot more panache, I think. Annemiek was such an incredible rider, but Demi looks like she was born with the bike just part of her body. She just looks,
she looks like Anna van der Breggen. Honestly, Anna looked beautiful on the bike, and we talk about this, and I can appreciate that. Even riders like Rihanna Marcus, quite often you see with these TT riders, they've just got such incredible core strength, and we know Demi spends a lot of time on the yoga mat and focusing on these areas, and you can really just see that the distribution of power when she puts it out. Her hips don't move, nothing's really moving. It's all coming from the core and the glutes. And that was something I was paying attention to yesterday.
And on the topic of FDJ-Suez, we have a final audio diary from Alessia Vigilia from inside FDJ-Suez. So let's hear from Alessia.
Hello, everyone. Finally, the Vuelta is over. We had some really hard days, so we are really happy that it's over, and we are super proud of the job we did every day, especially today and when Evita won the stage. But also today she was super strong, and we were so happy that the whole team could do his part in this good result. So we are really, really happy and super motivated for the upcoming races, because we know that our leader is really, really strong, and we can wait to help her on the next races. And I think we need to be really proud also about the reaction of Evita, because for sure it was not easy to come back in the GC fight after the second stage with the echelon. And we are definitely proud after today about the result and about how much effort she put in every race. So that was super nice to see and super nice to be part of that. And then, for me it was quite hard. Also today to be in the breakaway and then to go to the finish was already really, really hard. But I'm really happy that it's over. And for the next days, I will have some days off and I will travel to Naples, to one part of my father family. So I hope the weather will be good and I hope I will enjoy some good food and good weather. And for sure I will try to rest as much as possible because then we will be already focused on the next goal with the team. And now we know we can be one of the strongest team in the bunch and we want to continue on this line. So can't wait for the next races, but now before it's time to really recover. Thanks.
I want to say one thing about Evita, and then I want Gracie to say something because she looks like she wants to say something, and we've been monopolizing the conversation. But in terms of Evita, and next year, if the rumors are true, if Vollering is going to FDJ, then I don't think that is going to take away from Evita, because I think as these Grand Tours, they're not really Grand Tours, but they're the closest thing we have to Grand Tours, so we call them Grand Tours, or at least people have been calling them Grand Tours more in recent years. But these week-long stage races that we have, the Vuelta, Giro, and Tour, I think that there is enough with those three for both of them to have a shot at the GC. And it never hurts to go in with two riders that can factor in the GC, but Evita doesn't have to be a GC rider. She can just be an incredible climber who wins stages, and if there's a stage race that doesn't include a TTT or doesn't include a TT, she's still decent at the time trial, to be fair, but for a stage race that would clearly suit Demi, they have Demi. And if there's a stage race that Evita looks like she would do really well, like this week, then they have Evita. And I feel like it's not going to take anything away from her to have Demi in the team, especially because she's still so young and she still has so much maturing to do in her racing. Like when it comes to stage 4 and the crosswinds, for example. So I think it's only going to boost her to have Vollering in the team. And I don't see it being negative at all that she's riding into this GC conversation, and Vollering is going to come in as, the most dominant Grand Tour rider of this current time.
Generation?
I guess so. I mean, is she? I guess she's a different generation than Annemiek. I mean, the most dominant GC rider post Annemiek, basically, in the 6 months since Annemiek hasn't been in the peloton. I feel like it's not at all a bad thing if they have each other.
Demi was able to maybe put to bed some of those questions around can she still do it without SDWX, which I think is a good segue to talking about the team tactics over the week. Mm-hmm. And Abby, you wrote a really great piece on Escape about that. And maybe you can just kind of summarize and touch on a few of those key points because, it's been such a big topic of conversation for the whole season, but a lot of little incidents are starting to add up now. And watching Demi cross the line on that final stage and lift her bike in the air, joyful that she'd won the race, but also, I don't know, it just had that little bit of that feeling of see, I can do it.
This is a message. I have a question just while we're on that. What is it about lifting the bike? I understand in terms of sponsorship, but I had someone say to me, can people just stop doing that? It's getting old.
Well, we actually don't see it that much in road racing. I feel like it's becoming a little bit more common in road racing. It's more of a mountain biker thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think we've only seen it twice, in recent memory. I mean, I can't remember the last time it happened in a women's race. Besides someone...
I don't know. Oh, maybe at Flesh Fuller. Did Cassia lift a bike?
Yeah,
no,
maybe.
She didn't have enough time. Yeah. See, the thing is in the women's, I think she did after the line. Yeah. And she did it at the Gravel World Championships, which is not road racing. But it doesn't often happen in women's cycling. I feel like even when like Anna Meek or Anna van der Breggen would finish minutes ahead, they still didn't do it. But it does happen a lot more in men's.
Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was a question someone asked me.
No, I don't like it either. I think it ruins the finish line photo, to be honest. And so I'm not a huge fan, but I also get where they're coming from in terms of they have, like, Demi won with this huge time cushion. Well, 28 seconds isn't huge, but enough to win the race by over a minute. And the emotion that would take over at that moment, that I understand.
I think we see it in like mountain biking and cross because they're more individual athletes, so the individual sponsors matter more to them. So in a way, they're saying thank you. Also saying my bike held up in this really difficult course that usually is a bigger factor in the off-road races. Yeah. But I think that one of the reasons why Demi did it this time in particular was for Specialized. And another rumor, or I think it's confirmed, is that Specialized is going with her or going to FDJ. So it's kind of, her way of, saying thanks to the sponsor rather than the team instead of pointing at her jersey.
Thanks for believing in me, unlike some people in my team. No names mentioned. I did want to, while we're on the topic of SD Works Pro Time, I think we're going to be chatting here a little while. There have been some questions in the Discord about the absence of Anna van der Breggen, and I think I brought this up maybe months ago now, but how that is impacting the dynamic within the team, because we do talk about there are key individuals in a team like a Lizzie Dignam, who's an amazing captain and seems to bring everyone in the team together, even when it's been a shitty race. She's one of those people who can lift the morale and keep people calm and such. And I'm wondering, Anna hasn't really been at that many of the bigger races this season, and I'm just curious what your thoughts are on how that's potentially impacting the dynamic and the environments and the vibe. I mean, the vibe is all off there, right? Because we know some of the big riders are leaving. We know some riders aren't getting on. There's some issues as well with potential staff members. So, yeah, that was just something in the back of my mind. She was at the tracker and she got second, I think, in the 100 race. So she's clearly still got form.
I did mark down talking about her at the tracker because, speaking of rumors, I've heard of a comeback for Anna van der Breggen in gravel.
Gravel Worlds?
Yeah, and she has been doing. She's been going to all the gravel events with G, she used to be the Swanee for Trek Segafredo back when they were Trek Segafredo. But this year she made the switch to full-time professional gravel cyclist, and she was second in the Tracker 360. And Van der Breggen was there to support her, but she also went to the U.S. to support her in the Belgian waffle ride. So she's been helping G instead of doing the road stuff. And we did comment on that she wasn't at the major classics this year. She wasn't at Paris-Roubaix, for example. And what that would, because they have Lars Boom in the car, like in addition to Danny Stam, who's been running that team since the dawn of time. But I wrote in my piece that, to be fair, I was really, really nervous about publishing this piece that Gracie mentioned about SD Works because I don't want to speculate and I don't want to add fuel to the fire. Although my editor did point out that that's the backlash but also the backlash I got from that piece, no one would ever say it about a men's piece of the same in the same vein, which is, I think, true. But I felt watching the sixth stage, I felt watching the sixth stage that too many little things had happened over the months of the Spring Classics and the Ardennes in particular, and then this race, that I couldn't not talk about it. It was the only thing that we were talking about on the Discord. I was watching the race just like, what the hell is going on? And with everything,
but you weren't alone, Abby. You weren't alone in that. I think you just
I know,
wrote what
but
people wanted to hear. And also,
for some
please link
reason,
in the show
people
notes.
didn't like it. Yeah. I felt really, I don't know, torn about publishing this piece, but I also felt like it was something that had to be said out loud, because it was just like, it was too many things adding together. And had they not all, if it was a one-off, like if we watched stage 6 and we hadn't had the Ardennes and we hadn't had the comments made in the press about her movements, the most recent being that the team, the SD Works is the one saying she's going to FDJ. FDJ has said, oh, well, that would be cool, but we're a French team and we don't ride like we ride a French bike. Like the comments made by Stephen Delcourt were like, just like amazing. Such good responses. Demi's obviously said nothing. She can't really, per her contract with SD Works. It's all been from management of SD Works that have been like fueling the fire. And it was them who said that they're under the impression she's going to FDJ. They're under the impression that FDJ has signed with Specialized. And I would like to note that Specialized is signed with SD Works Pro Time through 2028. So it's not like Specialized sponsoring FDJ is going to affect SD Works in any way. But with all of those things combined, I was like, how could I not write about this? It's insane. Like, I don't know what I'm watching. So I don't know. From a personal standpoint, I was really nervous about publishing it, but I also felt it had to be said. But I mean, I don't know how Van der Breggen not being at the races wouldn't be part of the problem, because she, as an ex-teammate, someone who knows them all so well, especially Demi's like her protege. To not have her at the races must be part of the problem. And yes, the team functioned perfectly well before she was a DS on the team, but she was a rider. So clearly her presence in the road team has some kind of positive influence, because look how great they were. And last year they were unbelievable, like the most dominant team on the scene. Every single press conference, every single lead into any race, it was always SD Works first and foremost. And now it is like Lotte Kopecky first and foremost, or Demi Vollering first and foremost, but it's not SD Works anymore. And it's been such a shift. And I think that the way that the team raced this week is just adding to the questions that we have about how this team is functioning. Because like first you had the TTT with Niamh Fisher-Black sitting on. We talked about that already. And that makes sense. If she's, as a smaller rider, they just don't want her to lose time. Totally made sense. But then you had, on stage 5, the first mountain stage, there was the valley in between the two climbs. You had Bredewald and Niamh Fisher-Black on the attack in that valley, which made no sense, because then Niamh was on the attack at one point with Kasia Niewiadoma on her wheel, which in hindsight didn't really matter because Kasia went home after that stage. But in the moment when you hadn't seen Kasia get dropped on the final climb yet, you're going like, what the hell is she doing? Kasia's like the number one rider to beat Demi on the climbs based on how she's been riding in the Ardennes. And then going into that climb, I mean, just the way that they rode around Demi didn't make any sense. And I think it was highlighted on stage 6, where Demi was really left out to dry in the front of that group, riding into a headwind, which I said to Matt when we did a mini episode, could it have been that Reusser and Fisher-Black didn't have the legs to come to the front? Absolutely. But then they should have used their energy already before. They should have been spent. Yeah, because if you're not going to win the race, if you're not going to have a notable result, then you need to use your effort to benefit the team. And that didn't happen. And I said specifically in my piece that I wrote that I don't for a second blame the riders themselves. Like, not Not at all. I don't think that Neve is sitting there on the back of that group thinking, I'm just going to ride for myself, screw the team. Absolutely not. That's not how the mindset works for these riders sometimes. Some riders are like that. I'm not naive enough to think that I've been on teams. I've had teammates. I know how some of them can be. But Neve Fisher-Black is not one of those riders, and neither is Reusser, because we've seen both of them sacrifice their results for Demi in the past. But in this race, they didn't. They rode as if Demi was not in the team, and I think that was just unavoidable on stage 6. And you did have them doing a lot of work going into the climb, but it could have, it also wasn't entirely for Demi. It was also for Neve and for Marlen Reusser. And then when it came to the climb, they couldn't keep up with Demi. And it was just it's just like a little bit mind-boggling.
I think, on a personal note, it would have been nice to see, I think Neve didn't really have the tour that she wanted, because clearly they had given her some sort of protected role too, to try and have a crack at the GC herself, but she just didn't. I still think her time and her potential is coming, but it just wasn't this tour, because I would fully expect her to be more so in the mix in those hilly stages. So I think for them, clearly Demi, from that first climb, the first real mountain stage, it was obvious no one was going to beat her this week. And I said to my partner, I was like, Demi is just, she's the one for the tour. She could take all 3 of them if she lines up at them. So that was a bit hard to watch in terms of how Neve went. And I'm sure she had greater ambitions for this week.
I mean, she had bad luck on stage 8, crashing in between the climbs. And so she was
I forgot about that. Yeah, actually, that could have impacted the whole week. I think Gracie probably mentioned that as well, that when you crash in a stage race, or was you, Abby? I can't remember now. My mind is blank. But yeah, if you do crash,
you're sore. It stays with you. But I mean, I felt like she wasted energy on the 5th stage, but it wasn't. She was clearly doing the team plan because she wasn't the only one attacking. And for me, what it looked like, and someone accused me of like assuming there were middle school politics going on. And having been on a cycling team, I can tell you that it is exactly like middle school sometimes. But I felt like watching this race at times. At times, they were a team, and they were riding in support of someone. And that someone may have been Demi, it may not have been. But at times, it also looked like there was a team plan, and then there was Demi. And like on the final stage, for example, but also on the 6th stage, it was like Demi was just riding her own race. And it felt to me like they were like, oh, you're going to leave the team? You think you can win a Grand Tour without us? Well, try.
Sorry.
Like, that's how it felt. I mean,
yeah, it definitely looked that way. Yeah.
I hate the negativity. And so much of the time, I feel like we tiptoe around talking about the negative side because we're women. So like we have to, talk about the highlights and talk about all the good stuff. But like this whole situation it's just too much to ignore. And also you'd never, if it was men's cycling, we'd never hesitate.
I think as well, it's harder to ignore from probably your perspective because you have a little bit more inside knowledge of what's happening within the peloton too. So when you have all the facts in front of you, it's a bit easier to draw conclusions, if that makes sense.
I think people listening could assume that I know a lot more than I'm saying. And if if I'm bringing something up, it's because I know something.
That's journalism. You're just doing your job.
I think just judging from the Discord chat and some of the comments on Escape, and other platforms, it's not, it's pretty obvious that there's something going on. There's plenty of fans that are picking up on bad tactics, weird dynamics, and overall bad vibes. So I don't think it's, something that we've stirred up. It's just like quite obvious.
Look how FDJ finished the stage, like all hugging. The first thing they did was all come to each other. And then you see Demi kind of just off to the side with her soigneur, her post-race interview having won 2 stages and taking her like second big Grand Tour jersey of her career after winning the Tour last year. And also like everything that happened at the Vuelta last year where she lost out on the race because of a poorly timed nature break. Like that whole situation, coming back this year to win 2 stages and win the overall without anyone being in the conversation. Like there wasn't, the second she won the 5th stage, the race was over. No one was going to take the jersey from her. And for that all of that storyline, then to see her post-race interview where she was incredibly subdued and not the Demi that we've seen cry on the podium because she's so happy. She wasn't that. And I feel like it's just when you have a rider like Demi who, like we've said, she wears her heart on her sleeve, and to watch her post-race interview, like she didn't seem happy.
They're lost, huh? She's leaving. So they'll have to feel that. But I feel, I don't know if you want to talk more about. The big
question is, well, we've been talking about them for a long time, and there's a lot more that a lot of other riders that we need to talk about. But I feel like one of the big questions coming out of this is what do SD Worx do next year? Because they're losing Demi. I fully believe that Niamh Fisher-Black can get there, like can get to the point where she's in the conversation along with Gaia Riolini, for example. But they've put their weight behind Kopecky, and they've been clear about that. They literally said it out loud. So what are they going to do next year? Can Kopecky challenge Vollering in a week-long stage race like this? Because that would take some serious. Yeah.
No, I don't see it. I don't see Kopecky challenging Vollering in the Grand Tours.
So does the team then ride for classics victories and one-day races and go for stages? Because Niamh can win climbing stages if they put her in the right position. If they save her until the climb, she can totally at least get them podiums in climbing stages. Wiebes can win sprint stages. Are they just going to be a stage racing or a stage winning team instead of trying to go for overalls?
I still think they very much want it all, but who knows? Maybe they're going to sign someone who they think can match Demi. Right now, I feel
absolutely true.
I think Demi still is very much like we were saying. She's the Anna van der Breggen. She's the Annemiek van Vleuten. The tour rider that everyone is going to pick as their favorite to win, kind of like a Taj Pogačar in the men's. I feel like that's sort of the space she's in right now in her career. Sorry,
we say that name again for
Tadej Pogačar, is that right? I always call it Taj, like Taj Mahal. Tadej.
I was like, that's a good nickname. Now I'm gonna get that stuck in my head for comms tonight. Thanks, Loren.
Sorry, Tadej.
I always, whenever I'm saying his name, I'm like Focaccia. That's how I remember it.
One day you're just going to be a little bit too tired and you're going to call him Focaccia, and only the people who listen to this podcast will understand.
The good thing is that the hour that Gracie's recording, people are half asleep, like trying to concentrate on what's happening. So it's the ones who watch the replay and the next day that'll be like, did she just say focaccia? When in Italy?
Yeah, no pineapple on a focaccia.
No.
Oh man, poor Eliza. I feel like we've talked. Do you have anything to add, Gracie, about the SC Works?
No, I think we're going to keep talking about them for the rest of the season. I think that's definitely enough for now.
Very true. That's true. That's very true. Okay, so we've talked about FDJ. We've talked about Lidl-Trek. We've talked about SD Works. We need to talk a little bit about Visma Bike because they're coming out of this race with second on GC with Rihanna Marcus, which is great. Such a good result from her, and her ride on the final day was really impressive. Coming from a rider who is like taller than me and specializes in time trials, it was really, really impressive. But they also won 2 stages with Voss and took the points classification with Voss as well. So
just bossing it.
A good race for them. Yeah. Despite losing Anna Henderson in stage 2, she's got another broken collarbone on top of her broken collarbone from Setmana Valenciana. So that is a massive, massive bummer. I think this was her first race back, and she broke her collarbone again on stage 2. So that just really
sucks. A team I do want to mention and just shine a bit of a spotlight on because, you know, it's a smaller team that most people wouldn't even know this team, but it's that Dutch team that was always in the mix, always up there, the Volker Wessels women's pro cycling team, really putting themselves out there. And I thought they had a really great race as a team.
They're super aggressive, that team, just like really, they get up in the mix.
They've got a few decent riders as well. I mean, at one point, Valerie Demey, the Belgian rider, she's about 30 now. She was actually at one point one of the top riders in Belgium. So I didn't realize she was on that team. She was on, what was the team that, she was on the team with Lotta when it was God, what was it called back then when Alison Jackson was also on the team? Yeah, that's Giorgia Bronzini DS'd for a period there, that team.
Yeah, Live Racing.
Yeah, Live Racing. Oh, it's just Live Racing. So, yeah. So, I mean, they were Park Hotel Valkenburg, and now they've changed to Volker Wessels, but I didn't realize that was like sort of the new branding of the team, because back in the day, Park Hotel had some really top riders. Demi Vollering is first and foremost the one that comes to mind. Paulina Royackers was there as well, I think, at one point. Is it possible?
2014 to 2017, she was there.
Yeah, she actually was a rider that in this tour, I thought for her, I still think, but she was more present. This is I think the first time this season I've really noticed Royackers in the mix. Of course, this is a tour. It's very different to riding in the classics.
She had that really great performance, like string of performances when she was on Canyon, and we were quite hard on her for not being able to descend. But she was one of those riders that missed out on the crosswind stage as well. And
which is unsurprising, not to be like...
She made it in the second time. She was only 8 seconds down that day. But yeah, the first crosswind stage 4, she was out of that split. And then I think she also lost a good bit of time in the team time trial. 48 seconds she lost in the team time trial. Because, she had some really good, on the climbing stages, she was pretty strong. Like, she was 4th on the final stage, but she was also, she also did a lot of attacks, like on the 6th stage, she was on the attack. I think, sorry.
I was just going to say, like, talking about Phoenix to Kunik, Yara Castelline had a fantastic tour too. I mean, losing time, again, in the TTT and I guess crosswind sections, but in terms of climbing capability, we know she's a fantastic climber. She had some great results. So that was another one I had on the list of like a great sort of week. And then I thought the duo of Alison Jackson and Faulkner worked really well the past week. And, you know, Alison Jackson really had a great tour. She made all those splits. She was really up there in the race. She was working for Faulkner when she had to. And it was just very noticeable to me that she was really present in this race, which was just so awesome to see.
Another duo that we need to talk about briefly, because we're running out of time now, is Antonia Niedermeyer and Ricarda Bauernfeind, who both pretty much picked up the team after the initial disappointments that they had with both Neve Bradbury not being able to start and then Kasia leaving after the 5th stage. They had Bauernfeind with like a string of really good performances on the climbing stages. She was sixth and sixth on stage 5 and stage 6, and then she finished 5th on the final stage. So in the end, she finished 6th in the general classification. Antonia Niedermeyer also had a couple good results, including 8th on the final stage. For a team that had a bit of disappointment in this race, it was great to see the two of them really celebrating those performances at the end of the race. There's a really great video of the two of them hugging each other. And, you know, they're both German. They both came up through the generation team and have come into this World Tour team. And then last year, they both won a stage of a Grand Tour, with Antonia Niedermeyer taking that Giro stage and then Bauernfeind winning the Tour stage a couple weeks later. And I think, yeah, it just kind of highlights the talent that Canyon-SRAM has on that team and what they can do when things go right for them. Speaking of Canyon-SRAM, I actually have an audio diary from Maike Bandedoen, so let's hear from inside the team.
Okay, the last day of the Vuelta today, stage 8. And before we all knew that it will be a hard day with 2 long climbs in it, but we were prepared for it. And we had our 2 young super fighters climbers there, and for sure also for the GC. So we were really motivated for it with our small team, but we fought together, and in the end Rika finished 5th in the stage and 6th in the GC. So we had a lot of challenges this week with the team, with sickness, with, well, a few things, but I'm really proud and happy of everyone, the riders, the staff. Everyone worked so hard. The spirit was still really good, and we had a motivated team, everyone, and we just finished the Vuelta with a 6th place in the GC, and we can be really proud of that after these 8 days. And something most fun, actually, I don't know today, but also life of a rider. Finished 8 stages, then we shower, we eat, and we fly back home. So I'm just arrived on the airport in Amsterdam, and I will drive another hour to home, and I will be in my bed around 1. So we say now goodbye for this week, and good night. Ciao.
I think overall it was a good tour and exciting racing. From my point of view, the courses were a little bit boring, but I think the riders made up for that, and the wind.
Agreed.
And potentially the second half of the tour, the courses were a bit better. So overall, good to see the Spanish Women's Grand Tour growing from what it has been over the years, and to see a bit more investment from, you know, Spanish organizers as well in women's cycling. So from what I've heard and read, you know, they've definitely upped their game in coverage, engagement, race organization kind of stuff. So I think overall worthy of World Tour status.
Now, the question, what can we expect from the Giro, the next Grand Tour that comes up? What are the dates of that, actually? That must be end of June?
It is the beginning of July.
Beginning
actually.
of July. You'll have to do correction corner here, but is Demi one of the riders who's going for all 3 Grand Tours?
She hasn't said if she's going for all 3 Grand Tours, but I would assume she is going to try for the tour, especially with Kopecky not going to that one. Kopecky's already said she won't do the tour, but the Giro is one that Demi's not targeted yet, so we don't know yet. I think that is something that we will hopefully find out soon. Before we even get to the Giro, we still have Etzulia, which is on Friday to Sunday, and yeah, I know it's just like way too soon. We have Vuelta a Burgos 1 week later, and Ride London a week after that. Just like never stops.
So many tours.
The Tour of Britain is a week, 2 weeks after that, or a little less than 2 weeks after that. Tour de Suisse is then 1 week after that, less than a week after that. And then, the Giro d'Italia is, which new name this year, Giro d'Italia is actually, like for the first time ever, it's just the Giro d'Italia women. As this is the first year that it's taken over by RCS, who run the men's. But that will be July 7th to the 14th. So it's a shorter race this year than before in stages. But yeah, that's July 7th to the 14th is our next grand tour of sorts.
And I can just say this, by the time we hit the Olympics, Tills will be leading the draft.
Yeah, seriously.
Honestly, it's done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you are correct. Man, the draft has been quite a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
It's not over yet.
It's not over. No, but and now
season.
The Tour of Scandinavia is gone, because I was hoping some of my riders would pick up points there, but sadly is now off the calendar. It was a great opportunity. For riders.
It really sucks because, like, if you look at the calendar, like, we have literally a stage race every week until July, basically, or until like mid-June. And then there's just nothing. Like, there's months in between races. Like, we have, a month in between the Giro and the Tour, which makes sense because of the Olympics that will happen in between those two. But then you just have, like, GP de Plouay or Classic Laurent agglomeration. GP de Plouay just rolls so much nicer off the tongue. Which is a 1 day, obviously. And then, like, the next race is, there's the Tour de Romandie, which is in September. But pretty much August is, like, there's the Tour in August and the Giro in July. And that's it. It's just, like, really sparse afterwards. It just feels like they could spread these things out a little bit better. Although, that being said, I love the timing of the Vuelta. Even though it's so close to the classics, it does feel like riders came in, like, a bit tired. And there were riders that targeted the Ardennes and then came to this race that were maybe a little fresher, but still, that's still just a long time to be peaking, because those same riders also, wanted to be on form for Flanders. So it's a really long time to be racing your bike and not much rest in between. So in that sense, it's not a great time in the calendar, but in that it happens before the Giro is really cool because it gets so much more attention. I felt it got more attention being, like, not overlapping any of the Grand Tours for the men. Maybe there was a bit of attention given to the pre-Giro conversation, which I don't know why anyone needs to debate who's going to win the Giro when it's just so obvious. But there was that, of course. But in terms of, like, I don't know, focus on the racing, at least earlier in the week before the Giro started. As soon as the Giro started, the race was overshadowed. So there's not like an easy answer for this, because whenever there's a men's Grand Tour and a women's race going on at the same time, it's always just going to be second in the current state of things. But at least for the beginning of the Vuelta, you know, there was no competition.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit.
See.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap this up.
What are you obsessed with?
Oh man, I'm obsessed with so many things, and I'm gonna start out with a really sad one. Unfortunately, over the weekend, Bernard Hill passed away. He is the actor who plays King Theoden in The Lord of the Rings, and just a devastating blow to fans of Lord of the Rings. He's obviously been in a lot of other fantastic films before, but probably for me, who has watched those movies more times than I could probably count and knows every single line by heart. Just a really sad day. So I'll be watching the Twin Towers tonight to, I don't know.
Use memory.
Remember, yeah, exactly. So start off with a sad one, but in terms of movies, also, I am obsessed with this movie that just came out on Amazon Prime called The Idea of You, and it is just a fantastic rom-com, although I think it is not so much a com as it is a rom, and it stars Anne Hathaway, who I love, huge Anne Hathaway fan. She could do anything, and she's amazing at it. But in this one, she plays a 40-year-old mom who meets a 24-year-old lead singer of a boy band, and they fall in love, and it's amazing. And there was a chunk of it that was like social commentary on how the world reacts to women in their 40s being happy. Which I think brought the mood, obviously had to be in the movie, but definitely brought the mood down a bit. But otherwise, the whole love story was just a joy to watch, and I loved it, and I finished it, and I was like, yes, 10 out of 10, we'll watch again. And it's loosely based on basically fanfic about Harry Styles, which is very weird, but I loved the cast, and the movie was really good. So that's on Amazon Prime. If anyone wants to cry a little bit, but also smile. I smiled the whole movie. I just couldn't stop smiling. It's so good.
I don't know if I'm going to watch that, Abby, but I'll keep it in mind if I want to have a cry.
No, but do you like Anne Hathaway? Because she's like, I feel like she just carried this movie. Oh,
sometimes
wow.
she's I appreciate her acting. Don't know if I'm like the biggest fan of her in general, but
what?
She's been in some good stuff. I know. And I'm not like a big rom-com fan either, I hate to say. Well, I don't hate to say, I'm going to just say it. I'm a bit of yeah. Probably like the darker stuff.
I love a rom-com. I would watch a rom-com every single day for the rest of my life and just be totally happy about it.
Yeah, fair enough. I can see that for you.
Do you know, I'm just at the point in my life where I can't get through any movies or anything. I basically I'm not watching any TV at all.
Yeah.
And even if my partner puts something on, I'm not interested because there are just too many other things going on in my head that I can't sit and watch anything. The only thing I can do and concentrate on full attention is books, which I would argue is better. But I am just yeah. And your book recommendations coming from the two of you have been great. Abby, I am currently reading The Women, and you're right, it's awful. Last night, it's great, but it's awful. I was sitting there going, I don't think I can continue reading, but I have to finish this. And it's just,
I know.
It's such a great book, and I love this author, but I also, God, I hate her.
God, she's so sad. Like, why is she so sad?
Why do I keep downloading her books?
I'm like, it can't get, the whole book, I was like, it can't get worse. It can't get worse. At some point, there is something happy is going to happen, and then something happens that's happy, and then it's worse, and I'm like, oh my god, how did you manage this? Like, what is
And that's
Go
why
to
you need
therapy.
rom-coms to balance it out.
Yeah. I need to, or like, maybe that's what I need to do, like swap to a different book that is in
No,
those
you should
moments
watch
where I
The
don't think I
Idea
can
of You.
handle it. Okay. Yeah. I don't have Amazon, but okay.
Hey, actually, it's a book. It was a book first, so you could read The Idea of You.
I will do that instead because, like I said, attention span is really lacking. But yeah, that's something I've been vibing, definitely, is that book. But also another book, which is nothing new, by an Australian author, Low Tox Life by Alex Stewart. I've always been really interested in removing toxins from the home and everything like that. Like, it's one of those things that, like, reading the book, you know this stuff, but sometimes you almost have to read it. And the way this author writes, I just really appreciate it as well, the style. But you have to just read it and see it and make you think again. And I think having small children as well is making me rethink again some of the stuff that I do at home. I think I do a decent job, but you can always do more. So that's a book that I'm reading at the moment. Like, I do some things good, but then other things I could definitely improve. But what I find hard is not that my partner really cares. If I decide that the whole house is going to be vegan, he just kind of rolls with it. But definitely you have to be on the same page with these things, because I remember bringing it up in conversation with him and just saying how, you know, she presents all these facts about fertility and illness and all this sort of stuff that has increased over the past, I'd say 60 or 70 years, where they've been doing studies. And then I was like presenting these facts to my partner and stuff. And then I had this moment that I said to him, and maybe it was a bit dramatic, I'm like, we're killing our children with all this stuff that we're exposing them to, which is maybe not the best thing to say, which is a little bit insensitive, but that's how I felt in the moment, with just everything that we're putting in our bodies and touching and smelling. And not to get too deep, but it's a good book, definitely worth going through and trying to make some changes yourself.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind reading that too. I think, there's certainly a lot that we can improve on in our day-to-day lives, but also just to be mindful not to get too hung up on it either. A bit like some of that orthorexia, clean eating stuff. Sometimes you can get a bit too obsessed and it can really affect your life negatively, even though you're trying to do something positive. So I like trying to find that balance point with health stuff.
This is a bit of a dark joke, but like, so I'm going through this book and trying to detox our household and stuff. But then I realized what my son has to take daily is probably worse than all the toxins that are on the surfaces of things. So I was like, it's counterproductive. But it's
probably better for him though, that like, because he has
less
to take that stuff. Yeah. And so then when he's at home, that he can be in a like cleaner environment. I'm sure there's absolutely benefit to that.
So I'll let you know how it goes over the month. We're moving in June. So it's like a chance to have a fresh start actually when you move, I think.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. 3-year saga comes to an end.
Gracie, how about you? You got any obsessions?
Not specific obsessions. I have to be obsessed this week with the Giro. So I've been enjoying using Discord as a source of opinion, comment, insight. Much like we've discussed before on this podcast, sometimes the fans know a lot more than the experts. So I love that I can have that as a resource now for my homework every day to just stay on top of some of the storylines that I get to talk about at nighttime here in Australia. So it's been a good opening weekend so far. We've got a sprint stage coming up, which will be probably done by the time everyone gets to listen to this podcast, but there's so many good sprinters in the Giro. It's a bit of a one-horse GC race, so I think the sprint storylines are going to be good.
Man, Caden Groves better get me some freaking points.
I'm currently looking at your
negative
points, Abby.
He has me at negative points in the men's.
It's close between you and Joe Lindsay, huh? But this has not been updated for 1 week. So curious to see how it goes. I've got it in front of me right now, just looking at it.
He hasn't had a great season, but he's actually looking all right. He was going for some intermediates the last 2 days. So, positive signs, but we'll see tonight.
If he can get 0 to 0 points, like he's got negative 21 points now. Really harsh in my vibe.
Didn't even know that existed.
Because he got a 25-point deduction for something.
Well, I'm looking. Kaylee's got 2 on 0. So, but I guess Nielsen Powell should be coming a bit later in the season.
The women's also hasn't been updated, but Tills is looking.
Tills going to make massive jumps. Yeah,
with Rihanna Marcus and Vollering in hers, she's
1-2.
She's poised to.
She's coming for us, Abby.
Second. Yeah, well, she's coming for me, that's for sure. And then, but at least I had Ricardo Bauernfeind. She got some points, but I
still had 3 in the top 10, I think. But still, it's not like if you have the top 2 spots, that's like 750 points right there.
You still have one with 0 points.
Yeah, I know. She raced this week as well. But I'm sorry, Mike. I think I'm going to have to trade you in, buddy.
I'm excited for the trade. We're coming up on the trade. I know exactly who I want. All right, let's wrap up this episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We're going to end the episode with an audio diary from Brodie Chapman, post-Vuelta, who's going to give us a good recap of her experience and especially the last day being in the breakaway. So thanks to our audio diarists for their input all week. And thank you so much to you two for chatting with me today. And thanks to our listeners for being awesome.
Yeah. Thanks to Discord people. We love you.
Yeah.
So the week was, it was a hard week. The Vuelta offered up something different every day. It's kind of cool when you're racing in Spain. You have this mixture of crosswinds and mountains. So it definitely... it suits all rounders in a sense, but you got to be able to climb to contest the GC. Alessia Longo-Borghini, after a really, really full-on spring, was in second place all week. And what was it? 2 days ago, it was like an uphill sprint where she came third after we split it in the crosswinds, which was quite fun, like type 2 fun. So it was super hard. And there was a bunch of attacks in the end as well. So me and Spratty were trying to cover those. We were obviously positioned really well and supported by Lizzie and Eleanor in the end. They're always in the right place at the right time in the bunch. They can just move through the bunch so smoothly. So it's super nice being teammates with them as well. Yesterday was the kind of finale, Queen Stage, 2 big mountains to get over. Luckily, I was able to get in the breakaway after there was, a flurry of attacks as well, and all of us were taking turns at covering them. And then the one I got in stuck. Just had to... I was pretty motivated for the break to get a gap, so I was rolling through quite a lot early on because I just wanted it to stretch out a bit, which would then help me get over the first climb in front of the climbers and then hopefully support Elisa going into the final climb. So I actually dug pretty deep. Maria Benito was setting a really hard pace on the climb with Sarah Gigante on her wheel, who's obviously a pretty prolific climber. So I was a bit scared she was going to attack. In the end, she did a kind of attack, quite a hard pace, and I was able to stay there. And then I just dug really deep near the end because the climbers group with the GC riders was closing in, and I was like, shit, I better get over this climb. I did actually detach, honestly, 500 meters from the top, which was demoralizing. But then I was able to get back on a few corners later on the descent. Felt like an imposter in a group of the best climbers in the world. But I'd cheated and started ahead of time. So once we got to the bottom of the final climb, Grace Brown was just setting the pace again super hard, which was a punish for the stragglers at the back like me. But yeah, I was just there in case there was any, major attacks to follow. But it was pretty clear that with the pace Grace was setting, the only real big attacks from then on were going to be from the GC riders. And yeah, it was Demi once I looked back afterwards. But yeah, overall it was like a good day of like racing. Yeah, we had a lot of people trying to take their chance and getting up the road, and that kind of racing is really fun. I think if it's the last day, like, you might as well just give it everything you got left. And Elisa got third overall, so Rihanna Marcus actually passed her by, I think she ended up second by 11 seconds. So we're really, really proud of Elisa. She's a really, really nice person to work for. She's a good leader. She's extremely professional. She's funny. And yeah, we know that she gave 110% every single day this week, despite, losing some of our strongest riders as well to crashes. We lost Gaia Riolini and also Ellen Van Dyke, which was shitty, and I hope that they're healing up well. But yeah, overall, like, everybody, it's crazy cycling. Like, all these people are around you to like make sure that you can ride your bike as best you can. Like, we literally have guys like changing our mattresses for us. We had a chef, Jon, who was making all of us, but he made like a vegan tiramisu, which was incredible for the last night. And I'm just like, I can't believe this is like, our job. But it certainly makes a huge difference. We had somebody, a pelvic health specialist, looking after us. We had a osteopath. We had all our assistants. It's crazy. It's crazy, the team around a team of cyclists. But I can honestly say it makes such a huge difference when all you need to do is focus on riding your bike and eating heaps of carbs and staying sane. So it's just very impressive overall. And chapeau Demi Vollering. She's proved that she's the best in the world at these kind of races. And yeah, it's cool to see just how good the level of women's cycling is. Like, it is wild, and all these other really good riders in that group as well. So the day after, I'm actually in Pamplona. I just went for a lovely bike ride, that very slow bike ride in the Basque Country, because I'm racing Navarra in 2 days. And then I'm actually going home to Andorra for a bit, then coming back to the Basque Country for an actual mid-season break. So I've been racing since the beginning of January, so it's time to have a couple of days off at the beach in San Sebastian a bit later this month. So I look forward to that. That's me, over and out. Thanks for listening to me bang on.